You are listening to the Intelligent Vocalist podcast, and on today's episode, I'm going to make vocal acoustics easy to understand.
Welcome to the Intelligent Vocalist with John Henny. This is the podcast dedicated to help you be a smarter, better, more informed singer. And now, your host for the Intelligent Vocalist, John Henny.
Hey there, this is John Henny. Welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Vocalist. I do so appreciate you spending this precious listening time with me. Well, today was kind of a special week for me. A couple weeks ago, I was contacted by the bookstore at Midwestern State University in Texas, and they requested copies of my book, Teaching Contemporary Singing, because it is being used as a textbook. It is part of the curriculum at the university, which completely blew me away. I did not write the book as a course book. I actually wrote it for teachers who didn't have a lot of experience in teaching contemporary music or singers who wanted to get started in teaching. And I'm just so thrilled as to the response the book has gotten. And I got sent a picture of my book sitting on the bookshelf. And it's just a special thrill for me. So I just want to thank the university for including me in their curriculum, and I'm just really hopeful my book is helpful to those students. Tried to make it really easy to understand. As I'm going to do today, I'm going to take vocal acoustics. And the reason I want to do this is someone wrote me an email, and I know I talk a lot about this, but this particular person said, you keep talking about balancing the acoustics, getting the voice acoustically balanced. What does that mean? And so I thought, you know what? This is a good opportunity for me to do an episode where I just focus on making this easy to understand, just so you have the bare bones basics of what vocal acoustics are and what you should understand about them. So let's talk about the three elements of the voice. You have air, you have your chord closure, and then you have the resonance tract, your vocal tract, that space from your vocal folds, your vocal cords, all the way to your lips. That tube is incredibly important because that tube is a filter. That tube takes the sound waves from your vocal folds and filters and enhances and changes them and turns them into the sound of the human voice. You know, every instrument has to have a sound source, and then it needs this filter. It needs an acoustic space to enhance the initial sound waves. If you take guitar strings and let's say you put them between two devices that can stretch them and make them taut, but there's nothing surrounding the guitar string. There's just air. If you pluck it, you're barely going to be able to hear it. The initial energy coming from a guitar string needs to be enhanced for us to hear it. And it's particularly enhanced by the body. I'm going to leave electric instruments out of this. Those need enhanced also, but they use electricity, obviously, pickups and amplifiers. But on an acoustic guitar, those sound waves go into the body of the guitar and they bounce around. And the body of a really good acoustic guitar is created in such a way that body boosts all different notes and a real full spectrum of color within those notes. If you get a really lousy, cheap guitar, you actually can get some mediocre, expensive guitars, but if you just get a really lousy guitar, they tend to be cheap, you'll get notes that just kind of thud. You'll get da-da, boop, boop, and the note doesn't really ring because there aren't resonances within this acoustic area to enhance and make the guitar sound like a nice guitar. It just kind of dies. So the guitar has strings, the body of the guitar, and then there needs to be a radiator, something that allows the sound to go out into space, and that's the hole of the guitar, the sound hole. A trumpet obviously has buzzing lips into the tube of the trumpet, and then the radiator is the bell of the trumpet, right? So piano has a soundboard. It has wood that enhances the sound of the piano. Same with the violin, every instrument. And it's the interaction of the sound waves within this resonance space that's super important. And so it is with the voice. Look, we have to spend a good deal of time getting our instruments so that we send a balanced flow of air to the vocal folds, and your vocal folds can hold back that air and compress that air. And then when the vocal cords open, that compressed air is a sound waves. Now the air molecules are bouncing around. But just like on a guitar or the buzzing lips of a trumpet player, the initial sound is not too exciting. The initial sound coming off the string, if there's not a guitar around it, there's not much there. The buzzing of a trumpet player's lips doesn't sound like a trumpet. So we need that acoustic space. And once we've created the sound waves from the vocal folds, it is a huge part of your final sound. The interaction of the sound wave within the resonant spaces. And we can change the size and shape of these resonant spaces to give us different colors, even different intensities, but most importantly, vowels. Vowels are just a byproduct of how you filter the sound wave. Now, I'm not going to go too deep here, but imagine the sound wave like rays of light from the sun. The light from the sun has every imaginable color in it. And color is waves of light vibrating at different speeds. And the slowest light that we can see is red. And then as it goes a little faster, it becomes orange, etc., on up to violet. And above that, we have ultraviolet. But violet is the fastest waves that we can see, and that's how we process them. Your voice, that sound wave, has every possible vowel within it, depending on the pitch. When we get to up on higher pitches, we don't quite have as many vowel options because the math of the sound wave has changed. But let's just talk about in speech. So we basically have every possible variation of a vowel available to us. Every vowel has different shades. You can have a brighter shade. That's why we have all these accents and dialects, saying the same word. So what we do is we filter, we bring out, by changing the size and shape of our resonance track, different parts of the sound wave, different qualities of the vowel. Now in speech, this is very important so that we are able to hear the different vowel sounds, which are then separated by consonants or consonants, bits of noise that help give us language. But the vowel is incredibly important, and in singing even more so, because that's where the music is. That's where the sustains primarily are, especially if you're talking about consonants like a stop plosive, like a B, a P. You can't sustain those. You can sustain some voiced consonants, but for the most part, we want to sing on the vowels. So what we're doing is we are moving the resonances within the vocal tract to align with the sound wave in a way to give us different vowels. Now, let's talk about what these resonances are. In any acoustic space, you are going to have properties that will boost certain frequencies, certain pitches over others. And you've experienced this many times. You've been listening to a song and maybe there's a particular note in the bass that rattles something else in the room. what's happening is the room is reinforcing that frequency. The room is of such a size and shape that there is a resonance, a natural boosting quality. There's a pitch to the air, if you will. And that resonance is boosting notes that come near it, on it, or near it. And you experience this if you've ever taken a bottle of water and you blow across the top and you get a pitch, and then you take a gulp of water and you blow again and the note gets lower. What it's doing now is the pitch of that air is lower. That's why I say this all the time, that's why a trumpet is smaller than a trombone. If I buzz the same lips into a trumpet as a trombone, I will get very different sounds. You can already hear in your head the trumpet will be warmer, richer. The trombone, warmer, richer. The trumpet is brighter. It has more bite. And what we can do, in a sense, is change our vocal tract to become more trombone-like or become more trumpet-like. I can sing wah, or I can sing wah. I can get different colors on the same pitch. One a little darker, one a little brighter. Now, when we are talking about singing higher frequencies, this is where it becomes really important. And this is the crux of acoustics, of understanding acoustics. When you adjust your vocal tract, your throat and your mouth, to get near certain parts of the sound wave, that part of the sound wave will be boosted. That part of the sound wave will be energized. Now, when you sing a pitch, you're not just singing one pitch. Because if there was only one pitch in it, it would be hollow and colorless. It would sound like a tuning fork or a sine wave. It would sound much like doot. But we don't have that. We have this vibrant, brilliant, colorful sound. And that's because there are many of these individual doot sine waves, just individual, what they call harmonics or partials. Just know that when you are hearing a note, you're actually hearing many notes at the same time. When isolated, they're colorless. They don't sound like a human voice at all. But when they are put all together, your brain doesn't hear them individually because we need to understand language, right? That's part of our evolution and survival is communication. So our brain blends it all into a unified event that we hear as pitch and vowel and color. If you align your resonators to a part of the sound wave that is not optimal for the pitch, that's when we experience problems. And it almost always happens with the resonances more associated with the throat trying to reach up to parts of the sound wave that are no longer within its functional range. In order to have a higher pitch, just like blowing across the top of that bottle, if I add water to the bottle, the volume of air becomes smaller. The acoustic space becomes smaller and smaller. Therefore, the pitch of the air becomes higher. If I blow across, I get a higher pitch. So what you are doing when you are feeling strain, when you are feeling yelling, is you are trying to keep the throat resonator over-involved. You are trying to keep the throat resonator aligned with parts of the sound wave that doesn't work so well anymore. And you are trying to make your throat smaller and smaller in order to track and reinforce that part of the sound wave. That's why it feels like you're singing from your throat, like your throat's jamming up. You're of course singing from your throat. That's where your vocal cords are. But what you're experiencing is your nervous system, your muscles contracting and compressing and choking off, really, that space to make it smaller and smaller. And what we want to do is hand over the job of primary reinforcement of the sound wave. We let it go more to the mouth. This is very simplified, but it's basically what's happening. The resonances associated with the mouth become a little more predominant, and your mouth is able to boost higher frequencies. Your mouth is able to better track those higher pitches. Now, of course, the sound wave is always traveling through both. We don't want the throat resonator to drop out of it completely, but we want it to stop being over-involved. So, certain vowels will tend to make this alignment easier than other vowels. Singers tend to have more problems on oo, e, ah, because the resonances of those three vowels don't tend to come to center so well, as opposed to Those vowels tend to line up a bit better. Again, this is very broad strokes, but what we need to do in general is we need to take vowels that are not balancing well, that are cracking, or we can't hold on to them, or they're really straining and jamming up, and we need to pull them usually more to center. We need to get a more optimal alignment of the resonances within our vocal tract, from our throat to our mouth, the way it sets with the sound wave. And these alignments become trickier the harder or the higher you go. Now, here's the amazing benefit that you get when you align your resonances, your vocal tract, and what your vocal tract is boosting to the sound wave. When you align it in an optimal way, you get this beautiful burst of energy. And what goes out past your lips now, it sounds richer, more full, stronger, even louder to the listener. But you're not working harder. As a matter of fact, you work less. When people talk about, I want to sing without tension, this is what they're talking about. They're not literally talking about no tension, because that is silence. They are talking about the feedback of energy, because the energy that shoots out to the listener, well, it also shoots in the opposite direction, and it shoots back down to your vocal folds. And this energy does an amazing thing. It stabilizes your vocal folds, and it also helps them hold back the air. It's back pressure in the system that's assisting the vocal folds. And there's one other amazing thing that happens, because there's all this energy now feeding back. These vibrating air molecules aren't flying out as quickly as they were. They're hanging around. There's a lot of energy, and they're really bouncing around, and they're not moving out right away. So when the next sound wave goes to come out, that vibrating air can't really get up into the throat and the mouth, because the other air molecules are still partying and bouncing around. So those air molecules start to press against the vocal folds and push the vocal folds further and further apart, building elastic energy. And this is magic, because when the vocal folds really get pushed apart, and then that sound wave, that vibrating pulse of air, finally moves out from between them, that stored elastic energy causes the vocal folds to close very quickly, and it gets them to align in a really optimal way. They come together with a little more intensity, and they get a little more contact, so that your next sound wave is a little more robust. The vocal cords have an easier time holding back and building energy in that next sound wave, which repeats the process. And this is how singers just belt out these amazing strong high notes, and they look like they're not breaking a sweat, because it becomes easy. The acoustics start doing the job rather than the muscle. Now listen, you can attempt to do this with your vocal folds by using muscle, getting them to close quickly and come together with more surface contact, etc., and hold back the air and build more energy. But when you do it with muscle, it rarely works out well. It overshoots, it fatigues you, it doesn't create a really nicely balanced sound wave. It's just not the way to sing. And we've all felt it. We've all been there trying to belt out a high note using just a little too much effort. Not fun. But when you belt out that high note in the sweet spot and you get that feedback of energy, it's amazing. And that is what I'm talking about when I say you need to balance the acoustics. Balancing the acoustics, taking the resonances of your vocal tract, aligning them with the sound wave through vowel modification to get the right color and intensity and vowel. We don't want to distort the perception of the vowel. But when you do that, you get that feedback of energy, which makes everything easier. And in the voice, A affects B, affects C, affects A, affects C, affects B. The whole thing, all the elements affect each other. And so when you get that part right, it helps get the other parts right. It helps with your breath pressure, with the flow of air, with the resistance. The vowel is a magical thing. And the reason I call it the vowel is you can't really sit there in an abstract way and think, oh, well, I have to adjust my resonances. The best way to do it is through understanding vowel modification, through making little shifts in the vowel, which is a topic for another day. But I just want you to understand the absolute basics of vocal acoustics. Now, this is a beautiful rabbit hole that you can go down very, very deep. And I highly recommend reading Ken Bozeman's books. I know Ian Howell is currently working on a book who's just brilliant in this area. I mean, these are minds far beyond mine that I love to learn from. So the rabbit hole is there, the discovery is there, but this is the basic knowledge. Hey, if you want to know more about me, please visit my website, johnhenny.com. Be sure to get my free vocal warm-ups course. And if you are interested in lessons, just click on the lessons tab and we can get you all squared away and get you singing with ease. And until next time, to better singing. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.